morning, everyone, and hopefully everyone had a restful and great Easter with family. Welcome to our board workshop. So I'd like to call the meeting to order for Tuesday, April 7th, school board workshop. And at this time, I will hand it over to Vice Chair Atkinson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the very first thing on the agenda this morning, we're going to mix it up a little bit, but we're going to invite Tony Smith from the IROC committee up to give us a report.
Okay.
Right?
He's
Isn't
gonna
Do I
speak.
sit down or do I stand up?
Oh, he's going to speak on the
You can do
policy
whatever.
9142.
Yep.
Do you want to go up with that? With him on that one? 9142.
Morning, everybody.
This is,
9142.
this is just talking
Sorry?
about the.
Yeah, go ahead. So the committee it's a suggestion to have the representatives for the chamber to serve on a 2-year term instead of a 1-year term. Just not necessarily given the amount of time that we actually meet, somebody on a 1-year term, it just doesn't give them a full relationship essentially with the committee.
When is the next rotation then?
The rotations occur November, so this would essentially extend anybody who started in November then out for following November. Because the first meeting that we have in the beginning of the year is usually going over the sunshine stuff and very high level of here's what a budget is. And then the second one, they do some of the presentations about like, here's what we're doing with the referendum and go over some budget details. Then the third one in the fall is going over last year, and then by that time, we've now rotated again.
Right.
So, I think the thought was from the group that after the full 1 year, some people are starting to grasp some of it, and then we change them, so.
Thank you, Tony, for coming in. I know you're representing IROC, but also filling in for Zach, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yep, and then, so the policy 9142, so really it's pretty minor. So instead of the annually for the Chamber of Commerce, it would say biannually. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What chamber's on it right now?
Inglewood?
Izzo's, yeah, it's Izzo.
Inglewood.
Oh, we don't want him for another year.
Isn't it Joe Cataldo?
It's Doug Izzo.
Doug is the chamber.
Cruise Bank?
Oh, it is Joe.
Yeah,
Cataldo.
Joe's on.
Oh, Joe will be thrilled.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it a downside. So I think right now the way you have it is each chamber rotates, right? So before it was Charlotte County Chamber 1 year, Inglewood. So trying to get the 3 chambers in there, which really on a referendum period, you've got a 4-year term, right? So if
Right, that
really
would
you're
mean
only gonna have 2
only
chambers
2 have been on
represented.
for any 1 term of the referendum, which is, but I don't disagree. I will tell you that with what they got to learn, as you well know, it probably makes sense. They could have a lot more input and understanding that second year than the first year.
No, I agree. I think that's a good idea. Anyone else?
Good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in for us and
Yes, sir.
kind of walking us through that. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have priority 3. So the priority team wants to come up?
Kristen, are you clicking it? Yep, you can. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I feel like I was just here on priority 3, but I'm back. So we are going to be talking about priority 3, which is community, with our overarching goal of engaging our community through effective, keyword, two-way communication. So we do have 2 strategies or 2 objectives underneath this overarching goal, and that's creating and utilizing a consistent communication and engagement plan, and promoting and enhancing our engagement of the community at the school and the district level. This is a list of our committee members, and below are the meeting dates that we've currently had, with one coming up in May. So I wanted to start with an overview of what we've currently done, the impact and the work that we've made, and then looking forward to the future. Down 5 and 6 is something that we're going to be launching here shortly. So first, if you remember, we started in January 2025 at Sally Jones. We had a pilot at a high communication elementary school, and that was extremely successful. I then created the best practice guide with the help of my community partner, our group here, the Priority 3 group, and then shared that with our principals in August. We then launched the district-wide Parent Square app across all of our schools in the district, which was very successful as well. We did a marketing presentation to our principals and district leaders, and moving into our Attendance Plus pilot here, we just started, and then in August, we're gonna be launching that district-wide. We'll get into that a little bit later. So, strategy 1, creating and utilizing a consistent communication plan. We launched that this August, and it went pretty well. So this is the first page of our communication guide. It's like 13 pages long that the principals have access to in Google Drive. The ways we communicate, just an outline for parents in our community of where they're getting information, in what source, I guess you could say. And then there's tools that I provided to the parents showing them where you're going to get information, on what platform, and how you're going to get it. So as you can see here, Parent Square, quick, direct communication with parents. Then you go to their website, what is its purpose, and what are we using it for? When we're talking to parents, we want to be very clear on how they're getting their information and what tool they're using it for. So as you can see, we have Peachjar, Parent Square, and Focus. This is just one of the graphics that we've pushed out to the community and to our parents, showing what the platform is used for and where to find information. So you can see the differences between the 3. So Peachjar, flyers, that's automatically emailed to all of our parents every Tuesday and Thursday. It was on Wednesday, but we quickly realized that we had a lot of flyers going out, so we needed to split it up 2 days for the week. Parent Square, and then Focus. So one of the ways that Focus is different from Parent Square is Focus is very like district, right? It's the way that we're pushing information to the state, it's attendance, it's behavior, things like that, very formal. One of the ways that we are helping parents understand how to utilize these platforms is by creating like a how-to guide almost. So we have a step-by-step, how to report your student's absence. That's one of the things that we changed this year. Our parents are not calling the school and leaving a message on the attendance line anymore. They're utilizing Parent Square. So very quick, 1, 2, 3. First, you're gonna receive a text message. The second, you're gonna click the link, and then it's gonna take you to insert why your student is absent. They're sick, they're at the doctor's, we're on a trip, etc. Why is that important? Because if we are providing meaningful engagement, consistent communication, and equal access to the communication that we're pushing out, we're ultimately our goal of building community trust. We want our community to trust us so that we're the source of information. Charlotte County by the numbers. So this is from June to January. This has actually gone up, obviously, because it's April now, but this is shocking to me. The one thing that really hit home for me is looking at 60+ languages spoken just in Charlotte County. That's crazy. And because our prior platform did not have the automatic translation, the barrier that we had prior to using Parent Square is huge. That platform did not translate to 60+ different languages. Now, when our teachers are sending home communication, it's automatically translated to all of those 60 different languages. That barrier has been removed. That's huge for me. We are also reaching 99.5% of our families, which I'm really, really proud of. I'm really happy to see that number. Secure documents were a little over 5,000 and an abundance of time saved on administrative tasks because it is automatically pushing out content. And then 500,000 messages and 60,000 message threads. That's a lot of communication going out to our families. But why is it important? Why are we tracking this? It's important that we're effectively communicating with our families. It's one thing to just push out content and then another to actually hone in on the report to see who's reading it, what families are missing that content, if they're getting in text, if they're getting in email, if they even opened it. It's very important. So one of the reports I want to And as you can see, this went out in Vietnamese. You can see it's opened, whether it's bounced, and then you can see if it's delivered and if it was viewed. So out of the 5 that are on the screen, you can see that 4 out of the 5 were viewed. That means they opened it, that means they saw the content. Very important. We can even dial in on how our families are preferring to communicate. So you can see here that email, 86% are wanting their content via email, 50% app, 17%. Those numbers don't match because families can get both. So I can choose to get email and app, or I can choose to get a text and an email. So that's a little bit skewed. My goal by the end of the year was 75% of families having our app. Okay, we're at 61. We're not quitting. We're going for 75, and I think we can get there. Last quarter we were at 56%, so we are steadily growing. Now, it's important for me that families have the app because they can make their own selections. They can choose their preferences. Okay, if they don't have the app, it goes to the default setting. In the beginning of the year when we launched this, I defaulted that setting to a daily digest in email because I didn't want families to be overwhelmed and then turn it off completely. But what's really cool is that as I push out messages from the district level, you can see that they're actually changing. So remember I said all of them went to digest? Well, now 8,500 of them are wanting it instantly. So as the year goes on, that instant number is going up, which is pretty cool. They want the information when it's being sent, not at 6 p.m. But again, that's a preference. I personally like mine at 6 p.m. because then I'm able to focus on the information instead of work. Now I'm in family mode, right? And you kind of digest that information. All right, our next step in Parent Square is tackling chronic absenteeism. So there is a module within Parent Square that's called Attendance Plus. We are currently piloting that at a few of our schools. We haven't jumped in just yet, but this is one of the dashboards that you'll see. So this is one of our schools. You'll be able to see tiers, right? 1 through 5. You can see 996, excellent attendance. If you click on any of those see list buttons, you'll be able to see what student it is, how many days they've missed, and not really why, but you can dive into that. The next part of that is, this is another dashboard. You can see what team members are involved, what messages have been sent, and what interventions are in place. You can actually assign a case manager, or case worker, social worker to each student to push out that communication to the families. This is going to be used mainly for proactive and positive communication. Thank you for coming. We miss you when you're not at school. Things like that. We're focusing on improved coordination, clear data, and targeted and consistent communication to really hone in on those families that are missing their school days.
But I have a quick question.
Yes,
So this is linked to Focus then?
it is.
Okay, so will families have access to see the tiers so they know
No.
okay, so there's no way for a family because some parents are like, well, my kid's only missed 8 days, it's not that big of a deal. But if they could see 8 days is only 160 kids across our entire district, they might be like, oh wow, that is a big deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
they don't have access to the tiers.
Okay.
But I will say that there's a lot of proactive communication going out already. And I'll get into that with Sally because they're one of the ones that are doing it. So they'll say oh, you're on the cusp, but don't miss another day because we don't want you to be chronically absent, things like that. So since January, Sally has been kind of working this model, and I'm really proud of this. You can see a 46% decrease. From January 2025, we were at 23.8% chronically absent to today where they're at 12.4. That's huge. Now I'm hoping that we'll see this type of success across the district when we start utilizing Attendance Plus. And then the attendance rate went up as well. So another metric that we're tracking is the percentage of engaged parents. This is Focus. So we have 83.1% parents who have a linked account, which means they're logging into Focus, they're actively looking at grades, things like that. We want to make it even easier for families to get access to Focus, so they don't have to do it on their desktop, but now they can do it on an app. This is fake, so that's not real student data, just so you know. But this is the app. If you go on your Apple or Google Play Store and type in Charlotte, Florida Focus, you'll be able to download the Focus app. It's extremely extremely easy to use. You have access to grades. My daughter is obsessed with checking her grades, so having it on her phone is really exciting for her. But without even doing a hard launch, we already have 233 downloads of this app, which is pretty cool. We also have it on the website, so when families are going to register for kindergarten, they're able to download it right away. Another metric that we're tracking is social media analytics. We measure the reach and the followers that we have. We're steadily growing on social media. I find that to be positive. We don't want to have a huge growth because technically, if that happens, you go viral in the wrong way, and then you have a lot of people who are not living in your community, you know, honing in on what we're doing. We want our community, our locals, to be dialed into what Charlotte County Public Schools is doing without any negative feedback. All right, so we did have a case study participation just before spring break. We finished it. This is going to be published by Education Magazines and by Parent Square, and I'm just going to play the video really quick. It's very short, so I hope you enjoy it. Prior to using Parent Square, our communication was sporadic at best.
We would communicate via email or telephone with our parents. It just kind of spread out the communication options. The coach would use a different app than the instructor, or a club leader would use a different app than the sports coach. So you were going between 3 different methods to try and keep track of everything.
The biggest communication challenge is getting parents engaged in what we're doing, making sure we're all on the same page, and reminding students of important deadlines.
Two-way communication is extremely critical when it comes to engaging our families.
And now with Parent Square, it is a one-stop shop.
That's just a teaser, so the content that will be published will be much longer, and they'll be in magazines as well. So just another overview of the progress that we've made so far. So increased contactability rate, 99.5%, pretty good. Still making progress on that. I'm going for 100%. I know it changes every day, but I just want to see that 100% number. Another goal is to increase the middle school usage of Parent Square and the communication that's going out at the middle school level. I think we all know here that at the elementary school, there's a ton of communication between parents and teachers, and then it kind of drops off at the middle school, and then it's kind of picked back up with students, with Student Square and college readiness and all of that kind of stuff. So that's another goal, is to increase the middle school usage of it. However, I have seen a huge increase this year. Another is increasing the parent app downloads. Again, I'm going for 75%. I will make note that even if you don't have the app, you're still able to communicate. It's just preferences. So they can set their language, they can set the preference, they can message back, things like that. They can fill out forms. That's why they need the app. However, if they don't have it, we're still able to communicate with them. And we're currently implementing Attendance Plus. The next 2 things we already are using, however, we haven't done a hard launch because this year I wanted people to get their feet wet. Like, let's start using Parent Square, and then we're going to start strategically rolling out other modules. So we have secure documents and community rollout groups. Rolling out community groups. The community groups are a way that our community can engage with us without having to be tied to us. So they don't have to have a student in our district to be able to get content from us. Think of it as maybe an alumni group, a supporter group, things like that, sponsors. So, any questions?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but, all right, thank you.
I gotta make a comment before you leave, Ms. Smith. So, our smallest department here in the district, 2 of the 3 people are right here, Ms. Smith, Mr. Romulus. I want to thank you all for everything that you do. The two-way communication is so important, but as important as that is telling the story of Charlotte County Public Schools, and added to that, the value of sharing the value of a public education. So, on behalf of Manny, Claudette, and James, thank you all so much for what you do.
Thank you for communication.
Okay, so next up, we have the bus arm stop update.
I think that's me.
Okay.
All right, so just to give a little bit of background information, we're still in the competitive solicitation process, but I kind of want to give an update. So I know over the past year, the district explored the stop arm enforcement technology and did some demonstrations. From the time that it started until we have now, we had statutory changes, rules that were added to Board of Education, those types of things. So we use that time period to gather a lot of information to make sure the direction we're going is what we really want. So based on that, we determined the appropriate step was to issue an ITN and do a competitive solicitation process for that. So obviously, the purpose of this is to determine whether this can enhance student safety and also remain operationally efficient. So the solicitation closed on March 27th. We have the proposals have been received. We did receive 5 proposals as part of the solicitation. We're seeking a zero-cost solution as part of the solicitation during the contract term. The committee is made up of 5 individuals, 2 of which, one is a community representative and one is from law enforcement as well. So we're going through that process right now, this week. I think they're meeting today and tomorrow and possibly the next day about
Who are
all
the
of it.
committee members? Who are the 5?
So it's from various members of staff. So there's 3 staff members and then a community member and then a,
Okay, so it's you,
no.
not you. Can you just tell me who the positions are?
I
who the
don't
committee
know
members?
offhand. So
I'm not.
So there's a transportation representative, there's somebody from technology in there as well, because they have to implement it. And then there's a community member and then someone, I believe they're from the sheriff's office, possibly from the Punta Gorda PD, I forget which one, I think it's the sheriff's office, so. Yeah, I just don't know offhand, so, but yeah, so we're gonna do the evaluation, then at the following, at the May update at the workshop, we can, you'll see the rank order and any recommendations brought at that point. We'll be able to answer any questions about that. We just can't get into the specifics of it until the process is done, essentially. But I didn't know in the meantime if you had any questions.
I'm surprised there are 5 companies doing the same thing. It doesn't seem like it would be that.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole point of the competitive solicitation process, right? To give that equal opportunity for everybody and to make sure that we're getting exactly what we're asking for as the district, which is, that zero-cost solution that we wanted to do, so.
6 people in the pilot, right? 5 or 6 in the pilot initially.
So I think that pilot started right before I got here, so, there were 4 in the pilot. So I don't know much of the details of the pilot, but I knew a lot of the information that was gathered later was just, we wanna make sure that we're following all of the statutes. Some of which didn't exist when we were doing the pilot, so, or there were variations of what that statute was and it changed,
Trust me,
so.
there'll be more before we're ready.
Probably, so, it's gonna continue changing, so, but that was the update that I had at this point, but we should see stuff on the May workshop and agenda, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to Code of Student Conduct. Dr. Dean?
Thank you for your time today, school board members, Mr. Superintendent. A year goes by pretty quick since the last time I was here, this time last year, to talk about potential code changes. It really does. Give a little background, this is a process that I know we all, as a group in the schools, take very seriously, as the Code of Conduct is probably the most widely read document in the school system for students and parents. Preparation for the changes that you see here that I'll be proposing for the 26-27 Code of Student Conduct actually began back in the 2025 legislative session, back in May of last year. And we collect input throughout the year. Input is asked through the schools, through their school leadership teams. We have the principals talk to their SAC and PTO committees to get input, parental input. Faculty input through faculty meetings, and issues and concerns raised by students. Climate survey comments by students, and the student advisory group that Mr. Vianello, myself, and Mr. Bedford see on a quarterly basis at the middle school and high school level. That's how we got the vape detection section in our Code of Conduct. The students were asking for some clarity on that. So we really try to get input from our stakeholders. That way, it's a document that everybody, it's a kind of a team document, if you will. This input was taken and brought to the Code of Conduct Committee on March 9th. We had 29 participants this past year. It's the most ever in the history of Charlotte County that I can find. And we had 25 last year. Everyone actually showed up on time, which is really nice. 5 student participants, Charlotte High, Lemon Bay, Port Charlotte High Academy, and Babcock Neighborhood School was represented. And boy, did they participate. We had some great conversations. 5 parent participants from all 5 high schools, teacher participation, school leadership, and district leadership as well. The meeting lasted over 2 hours, and we had some really good conversation from the students and the parents. I made a point of calling upon everything you're gonna see in this code recommendations. I made sure that the students had to give some input, even if a couple of them were shy. What do you think about this? Because this affects your lives as students. And we got some great input, especially for the first recommended change that we're going to go over in a second, wireless communication devices. And just, I know I said this last year to the school board, I submit the code of conduct to the state every June. The state reviews it as well to make sure we're in compliance with federal and state statutes. And we've been getting the green light on that for the last 5 or 6 years, so we're in compliance. Okay, questions? Okay, so I'm gonna jump into the recommended changes. The first change should be of no surprise on page 37 and 38. We wanted to make the wireless communication devices section much more user-friendly. Over the last couple legislative sessions, there's been legislation passed regarding wireless communication devices. And obviously school board policy was updated to reflect that. So the wireless communication device changes, we wanted to give some examples of what wireless communication devices actually are. The students highly recommended to put in the smart AI glasses and smart AI watches. I don't own either of those products. I own a cell phone, but apparently they're out there, and we had some robust discussion about that. So that was student-driven, those recommendations. And we also wanted to achieve, we want to make this as simple as possible. So when a student looks at this section and a parent looks at this section or a teacher looks at this section, it's clear as day what's allowed and what's not allowed. That's why we added the bullet points for students are allowed to use WCDs, and we listed down, tried to make it as simple as possible. Any questions on proposed changes for wireless communication devices?
Just wondering when the first time the bus driver was gonna be held hostage when he says no, because it gives the driver the authority to not permit him on the bus, and I can just see that one driver on a route.
Right, and if the driver does have an issue, one of the nice things that Jack Ham has spearheaded with Tony Conti is we have a representative at the bus ramp every morning and every afternoon. So if that bus driver is having issues, a school administrator can talk about what is the issue and how can we get to a
So it
win-win.
doesn't fall back all on them, which is my concern.
100%, yeah, and we're actually following through with that every day. Yeah, yes, sir. The second recommended change would be for the bus stop section. Transportation Department recommended that we add the verbiage that you see in front of you. Students should be at their assigned bus stops 5 to 10 minutes prior to the arrival of a bus. It lays out some verbiage about what parents and students should do if a bus is pulling away while they're attempting to get to the bus stop. And then we add in a link, code of conduct will be placed on our website for parents to get to the CCPS Transportation Department escort form, which is needed for students that are pre-K, Head Start, kindergarten, and first grade. So those are our recommended changes for the bus stop section. Okay, to move on, page 26, permission to ride an alternate bus. Verbiage recommended by the Transportation Department, and the students definitely agreed with this, and the parents. Temporary bus passes are issued by each school unless otherwise approved by the school principal and designee and are valid for 1 school day. If a student needs a longer, or a parent was requesting a bus pass for longer than 1 day, then we can, they contact the school, and we can work through that as well.
Are students that are split custody relationships assigned to 2 buses when they have different homes go to at different times?
Some of them are, not all students. let's move ahead. Change number 4, students are expected to, on page 26 and 27. The note there, parents are recommended to download a student tracking application called Where's the Bus onto their personal electronic devices. Gives parents the ability to track their students when their students get on the bus at the bus stop or on their way back home from school. And the additional information and hyperlinks will be provided. And just as a note, we go through every hyperlink before we post, not just the ones that you're looking at here. We go through every hyperlink to make sure they're active before we post the code of conduct in June. On page 30, I would like to add a section. This is, I promised the school board I would do this last summer when we talked about employee communication with students. The verbiage you're looking at right there kind of piggybacks a little bit on what Mrs. Smith was talking about with the use of Parent Square and Student Square for Charlotte County Public School employees. If you're going to interact with students, you do it through the Student Square app, Parent Square app. Parents can track what information is going from a coach, club sponsor, or teacher to their student back and forth. And the parent has to consent to their child getting that communication. This verbiage, on a side note, is in all of our team rules and club activities at the secondary level. So when I actually went to each of the high schools, along with Claudette and Jack Ham, and we reviewed this verbiage with the high school coaches and club sponsors in August at preschool week. We verified in December that this verbiage is in their team and club rules once again. We would like to put this in the code to make sure that's spelled out clearly, so parents, even if your child might not be in a club or a sport, you want to make sure that your kid and you understand the expectations.
So I have a question. Talking about just high school teachers, coaches, and club sponsors communicate with through Student Square. Do middle schools not use Student Square?
Claudette, do you want to chime in?
Not at this time, but we are thinking about, transitioning that.
So like my son gets communications from his teachers. Is it through Parent Square then? Because he gets,
Which son?
I think middle school, I'm pretty sure. No, nothing?
Email maybe? I don't know, but he doesn't. So currently 6th, 7th, and 8th graders do not have access to Student Square. However, this is gonna be our first year where we're transitioning, still using the platform to a new school year, right?
Yeah.
So it has been brought up about 8th graders in athletics. How do we communicate with those 8th graders who are transitioning to high school for those summer programs? Because, we know it's happening, we just need to do it in a safe and organized way. So we're gonna be talking about that soon.
So I didn't know if we needed to add middle school or not.
Does it make sense to change that instead of high school to say all?
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
maybe
just
All
all.
teachers, coaches, and club sponsors.
That would cover
Cover it,
any
so if we
changes that
change-
might come up during the school year.
I think that.
And then also make it very clear to everybody what the expectation is.
And then I know this is, we have policy on this as well, but like I've run into where my son's girlfriend, who's a junior in high school, will text me something and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I allowed to text her back? So how are situations like that handled? Have we encountered anything like that? Or even like extended family members who maybe have a niece or a nephew in the schools? Have we encountered any issues with that?
I don't think
We have
that should
something
be
in
the school's
policy
job
that
to
covers
police it.
that, where it talks about like if it's a personal relationship or something.
Yeah, we spoke about it. It depends, and the way I've explained it to administrators is, are they texting you as your role as your son's girlfriend or as a school board member?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that, and no, we haven't had any issues.
Okay.
Last one, I should say.
I get
Parents.
scared. I don't want to break the policy, so.
No, but I remember there was something about this.
Why don't we just start in the statute, and when we do that, why don't we just put a head note in all of it, anytime you see parent, all three are included, you have to do that. And consistently, we go through, we see, there'll be one that says parent/guardian, and the next one won't. If we just put a head note in our policies that indicate anytime you see parent, it means all three, it would save
That's a good idea.
them having to correct it every time.
100%. So I will make that change, Mrs. Montry. And last but not least, parental rights. This stems out of state statute. Before we, at the school district and this has been in place actually for quite a while at the state level. Before a school district administers a scheduled well-being, mental health, or health screening questionnaire or form, parents, guardians, and caregivers, they have the right to inspect any questionnaire or form that will be administered, and the right to is what's actually being asked. So for example, for next school year, we have some questions in the climate survey that the state could say, maybe falls into that bucket, kind of on the fence on that. We're gonna make sure we put the climate survey questions on our school district website, so parents at the elementary, middle, and high school can see exactly what's being asked of their children. And I will make that change, Mr. Seeger.
Hey, Dr. D, can you go back to the last one, employee communication?
Yes, sir.
Where did we end with that? Can you?
We are looking at taking out the verbiage high school and put all teachers.
Okay.
So high school comes out,
Not all employees, coaches, like,
we could do that.
Yeah, we have some coaches now.
All
Some of
employees
them
must
are.
communicate with students.
all employees, coaches, and club sponsors, just in case there are coaches who aren't employees. Well, they technically kind of are then, I guess, but,
Well, that's cleaner then.
okay.
Right.
I agree.
So even though they can't, like elementary, middle can't communicate through student square because they don't have that yet, so that's just kind of future.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, it makes it clear that, period, that you can't, so say you have middle school students who aren't on parent square, student square, you wouldn't want any employee to be communicating with a middle school student.
But I think that
Outside of a
first
monitored-
sentence covers that. First sentence.
Yeah, it's true.
Covers that.
I think that first sentence prohibits, the second sentence says this is how you can communicate. So I think they're both important.
Even though you can't communicate through student square
But you
for elementary and middle.
Right, but just in case we move towards that in middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in eighth grade, there are high school coaches who need to communicate with eighth graders, they have tryouts coming up, or they have whatever. Because I know like high school cheerleading tryouts are happening like now already, so if you're in eighth grade, you need that information, so.
But the parents are getting that information, correct?
Well, sometimes though, the
If there are
students need
leads
to
on it,
prompt the
maybe,
parents.
but sometimes, you know, it's a little more onus on the kids. So it just gives a route to be able to
Well,
communicate.
that won't cause any confusion, right, since there's really no student square for middle, elementary. and
I actually like including that you can't though, because it makes it very clear that they can't email them or text them, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I think including it,
You don't want to get any wiggle room for which school.
right, right.
Run pretty tight right now.
Yeah.
Process.
Okay, so where do we end up? Again?
So switching to all.
Switching to all employees.
All employees.
All employees.
Well, again, I can't think of the name of the club that's on campus, the student athlete club.
Oh,
Chris-
fellow
FCA?
Christian athletes, yeah.
Right, those are not employees
be-
and they're not coaches.
Right, so all
I
employees,
think,
coaches, and
I
club
would wanna make
sponsors.
sure that if we're gonna cover everybody that's contacting our kids.
Yeah.
So there are people
So all employees, coaches, and
And
club
club
sponsors.
sponsors.
Yeah.
That's a good point, yeah. We good? Great job, Dr.
Thank you,
D.
Dr. Dave. Let me ask one more question on that, because you brought up a good point about club sponsors. Do our club sponsors who aren't school employees have access to Student Square?
That depends. I don't currently think they do, but same thing with like coaches. We had to give them access through a different way if they're not technically an employee. So no, a lot of the times they're just pushing out the communication to the parents on behalf of the sponsor. Does that make sense? Like the school is doing it.
So I think we have some kind of policy about these outside groups that do like after-school clubs. Do we have a policy that has kind of like some certain things they have to follow?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't think there's anything specifically about communication, but currently what I can say is if, say, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, the school will post about Club Wednesday, and they'll put it on their calendar, they'll push out a flyer for them. So they're not directly communicating with the students within that club at the middle school level. High school, they don't have access to Student Square or Parent Square, so I'm assuming it's gonna be the same way as that the school is pushing out that content for them. Unless they meet and provide that information at the time of the meeting.
Great job, Dr.
It
D.
seems a lot shorter than I remember.
We've had a couple of years where we had a lot of stuff.
now we're gonna dive into policies. Does anybody want to take a break before we start on these?
I'm just using some juice instead if you want.
Okay, we'll just wait. We'll take a 5-minute break. Yeah. Thank you. All right, it's 10:15, and next up, we have policies. And Mr. LeClaire, you go first.
Sure. Just want to bring Adrian up so that she's ready with all her stuff. All right, so, excuse me. So obviously we have a long list of policies to review. And I'm going to add to that as a last minute. So under our list, under my list, please make a note for policy 6233, which is district budgets. We can have a review of that or a conversation. All right.
6233, is that under somebody else's right now?
No, this is actually a last minute addition.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so policy
Um,
0143.
Yep, we can start with board policy, the bylaw for residential areas.
Okay, so I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of take a look at that, but there was some adjustment to that particular policy. And I don't know if anyone wants to
Any questions on it?
comment on that question?
Didn't hear any major changes.
They said it's just now to align with the new Florida statute. Okay. All right, and then the second one is the public participation at board meetings, and we have a few options to check here.
Yes. So I was looking at option 1 or option 2. Members of the public, option 1, members of the public shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard on a proposition before the board.
Let's see, that's not.
Hmm?
Where are you seeing that one? Because the one I like just is this one.
This one, and then, I have option 2 right here.
Okay, so this is option 1, and what's option 2? They're both saying the exact
Yeah,
same thing on
no.
my copy.
End of option, do you see end of option 1, and then right below that is option 2. Does everyone have that?
No.
It is a little bit confusing.
End of
Yeah,
option
and my
2.
wording.
Because it says end of option 2, but it's really option 2, right? It's not the end of option 2. Yeah, I was a little confused the first time I looked at that also.
See, mine looks different than I think.
Where it says, see where it says in green, end of option 2? I'm looking on my computer.
See, I don't have that
Oh, gotcha,
option 2
gotcha,
underneath
gotcha.
there.
Okay, all right.
I believe we currently have option 2 right now.
Let me go to that. Let's see what you're saying. So say that again,
I believe we currently have option 2, members of the public shall be given reasonable opportunity to provide input to the board.
That's option 1,
That's
right?
option 1. Option 2 appears to be much more.
It looks like you guys' printed copy
Encompassing.
looks different than what we have on
Yeah.
our computers, because
Yeah.
we three are looking at it digitally.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and even when I print it off.
The
it's-
digital copy is
it's
different
Printed off exactly
from what
how
I
this
saw this
is.
morning.
What's that?
Mhm.
It looks like the digital copy is different.
Yeah,
It looks like the,
Digital copy is different, so what's on board docs, I don't think it matches what you're holding.
Okay, so then what are
I
the
believe we
choices?
would
Can
like
you
it to
just
say.
read us the choices and we'll see what we do?
So what you don't see on the digital copy, which I see on the hard copy, so option 1, let me repeat it, members of the public should be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard on a proposition before the board. End of option 1. Option 2, members of the public shall be given a reasonable opportunity to provide input to the board.
I
I like that
option
one
2.
better. And that matches what we currently have.
Okay?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and then you see, the rest of the potential changes. For the purpose of this policy, a proposition is an item before the board for a vote, includes but is not necessarily limited to all items on the agenda notice as unfinished business, consent, non-consent, and what's there?
What's currently in the policy just says unfinished business, comma, consent, comma, and non-consent.
Yeah.
I certainly don't like the
It should-
additional
Business
sentence.
consent.
It should match our language that we use, so like regular agenda items, or, I mean, what is our language?
Yeah, we are limited to regular agenda items. That's in the opening of all we're going to discuss in the agenda items, I think. Because when they fill out the card, it's on agenda items.
It can be
Yeah,
on
they can
anything,
be
they
on
can
talk
on
about
anything.
anything.
Right, that's
Yeah.
why we let them just talk about anything.
Yeah.
That first option was to strict to make it only, they could only speak on. So, yeah.
Well, again, I don't mind that, I just don't like that sentence that's added on.
So we have consent, and then we have action agenda. So if we're gonna have the same language instead of non-consent, it should be action agenda items, so that way it matches the language, or just all items.
So,
So you're thinking end it after all items on the agenda, period?
Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Less is more.
yeah.
Okay.
Designated in public input period. Option 1 or option 2, do you see, let's see, make sure this matches.
So we have an option two on here.
I think it's purposely blank. Yeah, if you want to come up with our
So,
own.
so what do we have? So we have basically the option 1.
Option one is what we currently have in policy.
So is there
Seems to
two-
me that that's been working well.
So we don't need option 2.
No.
Right.
Well,
We did just work on this.
Yeah. Is it in this policy or somewhere else?
This was February of 25, so
Yeah.
it was probably this policy.
So what was it the last time we?
So we did A, individuals desiring to provide public input must complete a public input form. And we ended it right there. And then B was individuals will be given the opportunity to speak in the order in which their form is received. And then C is the same. We have the 3 minutes designated there. And then D, we have individuals who have filled out the board's public input form may not delegate their allotted time to speak to other individuals. Okay. And
But
then,
back up at the top, are we gonna go through these one by one and decide? Because we have a choice to make on A.
On A,
Yeah,
I
but-
say leave that green part off. I'd just like it where it ended.
what we
Were
currently
they-
have now.
Like individuals desiring to provide public input must complete the public input form.
Okay.
Do
And
we,
does the form have, it has a place where they put what they wanna talk about, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's helpful.
do we add, the last time, did we add, their names and?
That's what I thought we did, we had a long discussion.
Yeah.
That's on the form, it's on the policy, yeah. Yeah, right. It's on the
right,
form.
so frankly, the policy should
Be
conform to the form. Policy should indicate what's on the, so we don't get anything back if your form is different than the policy. So the policy should read, if we're requiring a naming and counting, the policy should direct it, that too.
We want to grab a form.
It probably should must complete the public input form instead of a public input form. It probably
They
Yeah,
can bring
they
their own.
Right, it probably should say the, and I'm actually okay with not listing everything that's on the public input form, as long as it say, you could say must complete the public input form approved by the board.
All parts of the public input form.
Is the address still on there?
It is not. Name, phone number, city, state, issue, and topic.
I would say, I would put it must complete the board approved public input form.
And comply with it.
So because somewhere along the line, when I read the description in public input, I mentioned name and county residence. That's
You just
not-
ask them to state that.
Yeah, we don't ask them to say their phone number, but we do need that for staff to reach out to them. So you want, must complete the board approved public input form for the citizen comment
Board recommended.
There you go.
or
Yeah, I think
Or the board provided. board provide.
Provided,
All right,
yes.
pick one.
I like provided.
Yeah, I don't want to recommend one and then bring another product. If we provide it, limit it to.
Where do we end with that one?
Yeah, it's right here.
Individuals desiring to provide public input must complete a board-provided public input form.
Okay, perfect. All right, so
We should get to my house.
And then we're going to just end it there. We're gonna take the rest of that.
So B and C, we're fine with? Okay, and
What
D,
what is it, the drafting note on C? I'm concerned, because I've been through that meeting, far more than 20 people. I don't think the rest of you have sat through that. I would like something that gets above 20 people, that the chairman has the opportunity to say, okay, at this point, we're looking at.
Well, it says that already,
It says allotted up to.
and it says the period may be adjusted by the presiding officer.
That's a drafting of that, it's not in the policy, right?
No,
That
it
one-
is.
well, that-
No,
it's still
the
here.
drafting note, but no, which what Kara's saying is, it is, that that first sentence, C, and then the drafting note is just more clarification, but that's not part of the
maybe
policy.
just.
Well, maybe we need to say a total time not to exceed 3 minutes. The time may be adjusted by rather than total.
So you're saying you want to include the drafting note in the policy?
Well-
And it might be good though too, because that way people aren't like, oh, there's so many of us showed up and now you're just mad, so you're wasting your time. If it's in policy saying, no, this is what our policy says we're gonna do, that if there are, that
That's a
makes
good
sense,
idea.
yeah.
In the next paragraph, the second option allows for the board to include the specific allocation process. Where does it say that? Board optional, see where it says right here, in the next paragraph, the second option allows for the board to include their specific allocation process.
But we're not allowing allocation of time.
You know, I don't really understand that because it doesn't.
So if one speaker wants to get up and speak for 10 minutes, other speakers can say, you can have my 3.
No, we already said we can't do that.
So do you want to include language that says?
Maybe.
I don't, have we ever had two jet?
No.
Have you?
Do we have
It's
the
never
process?
adjusted.
But also it says up to a total of 3 minutes,
yes,
there's no
there.
guarantee that you're gonna get 3 minutes, it's up to.
Right.
So the chair still has discretion.
But I do agree with what Kara's saying about if you have it in your policy, 11 to 20 speakers can receive up to 2 minutes. Now, if the chair decides to allow them to have their 3 minutes, that person absolutely can. But it kind of gives it
Some guidance.
some guidance.
And well, I guess I do want.
I hope I'm never here for that day. Cause that gets very contentious.
It
Well,
does.
it can, but you
Department of
don't-
Education does that for.
But I think the way it's written, you don't
So do the
have
state
to.
committees.
Right, it says up to a total of, so it doesn't
And
say.
people
you
get
to.
mad, and people get mad.
What was that?
That's what you get.
The county gives us, the county says that the speakers and we get 5 minutes each. That's why they get
Nosing
paid more.
time.
So do you wanna add that as a backup? In case we do have,
Yeah, I mean, we could say, for example, and then put those in there so people are aware that if they really wanna look, this is an example of what could happen if there's, because I mean, if we have 12 speakers, we don't need to limit it to 2 minutes, but if
when it
there's.
gets to be 60,
Right.
well, I think the most we ever had was 50 some.
So maybe we add the drafting notes,
That's like-
that first
I would
sentence?
take that board may desire to I mean, it
Right,
already
reword
says
that.
that they can. Time period may be adjusted by the presiding officer, i.e.
In the event
0 to
speakers,
10 speakers.
in the event speakers exceed 11. Rather than all of the verbiage that's there, it's just, that's,
I would just give them a little guidance.
So from that comma,
Right.
yeah, okay.
And again, we don't have to, but if we have 50 speakers sign up, we might need to.
And
you know,
Christina
2
always
minutes.
says, what does your policy say?
So in our policy, it gives an example, people are aware that that could happen.
in the event speakers exceed 10, then 11 to 20.
All right. We will add that for C. D, we want to continue to not allow them to delegate their time.
Correct.
Okay. And E is as is. And F as well. So under additional rules of decorum and conduct, they're just changing a sentence.
And that was a result, I think, of the Brevard County situation I read, so that's a must that we put.
And I think it's worded well, recommended.
Okay. All right,
All right.
thank you.
Oh, thank you for walking us through that.
And then you want to, two, three?
Yes.
It's not in the policy.
So here's what I have, maybe to help us get started.
Do you have it on this?
I've not, I've seen a copy of it, I don't have it.
All right, so, yes, so this is,
Does anybody else need a copy?
Is that the copy that's in board doc?
yes.
Okay, I have it.
This is, the one I have is what,
You gotta search it in policies.
what,
Is this what
Mike
McKinley sent?
McKinley sent.
Okay.
Which is
I didn't
kind
have
of
that.
strikeout stuff. Bob, do you need one, you're good?
Yeah, well, I think that's,
All right, thank you for allowing me to bring this to your attention at the last minute. So I think we have, I think we need to take a look at how we have worded the last policy as far as the 10% fund balance and how we apply that into our reserve balance for the referendum. So I would like to kind of take a look at that. Historically, you know, obviously we have to stick to the 3% according to the statute. And I believe in the early 2000s.
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask the exact same thing.
Yeah, Marcus, if you want to come up here as a backup, questions as we walk through this. And Marcus, you have a better idea of the timeline, because I believe you kind of backtracked a little bit on that. Somewhere along the line, the board decided to go to a 5% fund balance. So we went from state statute 3% to a 5%. Do you remember when that was?
I believe that was 2015.
In 2015. And then, in what year did we go to 2%?
18.
18. Was that after the first referendum?
It was right before.
for the
Right
first referendum.
before, okay. So right before the referendum in 2018, we went from 5 to 8%. Fast forward to 2024, we bumped that 8% to 10%. Going back to the referendum, the policy or recommendation from, was it IRA? Was to keep 2 million, not 2,000, 2 million each year as the referendum goes, up to 8 million.
That was the board said we were gonna do that.
Gotcha.
It wasn't a referendum recommendation, that's what we said we were gonna do.
it wasn't just to IROC, it was to the entire community when we were out trumpeting the benefits of the referendum and what we were willing to do as a district in order to ease the pain if the referendum ever was to be extinguished. And I'm uncomfortable with this because it implies to me that there's an immediate ability, if we want to take $4.2 million of that money, all of it, but immediately $4.2 million, because 10% of, of
Yeah, and I believe you're referring to the language that McKinley added to.
Yes.
Okay.
And that particular language still does not address my concern that we're opening the door to come in a fell swoop at any point in time and reduce that, because 10% of 8 million is only $800,000, so that, or not. 10%,
38.
yeah, 3.8. So that leaves 4.2 million available immediately. We haven't heard from IROC, how they feel about it. We certainly haven't told the general public that this is different than we've told them before. So my concern is Mr. McKinley's proposal doesn't address the concern that I have that we can invade it, for lack of a better term, willy-nilly, in violation of what, not violation, but in opposition to what we told the public. And that's, I understand that Marcus has explained to us in detail that because of the way we have to present the terms is the entire reserve includes that amount. This has to have some way in this policy to designate this has separate terminology for this particular $8 million.
So it needs its own paragraph.
Yes.
So that brings me, and I kind of had the same thoughts with that, what was presented here, so here's.
Can I ask a question before we go on?
Yeah.
The current policy, the way that it's worded, it says unassigned fund balance. Give us the definition of unassigned fund balance, and really what I'm looking for is, does the definition of unassigned fund balance include that 8 million in reserve funds?
So it would not include the 8 million in reserved funds.
So unassigned does not include the 8 million.
Correct, because the 8 million is part of the assigned budget. The board has chosen to assign that as the referendum reserve, which is the board's right to do at any time. But the board must take action on anything we assign. So that, which you do by adopting the budget. So, but unassigned would be, for lack of a better term, we can do whatever we want with that money. It's not restricted for, mental health or safe schools or anything like that from the state level. Or
So when the
inventory.
state looks at it then, say if we were to go down to 3%, let's say we got down to 3% on our unassigned, but we still have that $8 million out there for referendum reserve money, the state wouldn't include that as part
The
of our 3%.
state would include that,
They
yes.
would
We've
include
That's
it.
the-
we've assigned.
That's where we
It's
keep
not a
having the
state
problem,
aside.
Kim.
Yeah, so the state definition doesn't match what our local board's definition is. And it doesn't have to, it just can't, be less than what the state says, so. Cause the state is looking at the unassigned and assigned as part of that 3%.
As the 3%.
Correct.
Yeah, the other thing I would just say, like back to your comment about what we told the public, my assumption, what they say about making assumptions, when we went out there to the public and said, we're gonna set aside 2 million each year, I thought we were gonna do that in perpetuity. I didn't think that we were gonna end it at the end of the 4 years. And we never had a discussion, by the way. We never as a board consciously made a decision on the next referendum cycle to end that, putting $2 million aside.
I don't disagree that that was the premise we went.
So you have
Out
the same,
with
you
it.
have the same assumption, yeah.
I did, but again, it seemed to be determined through, without a vote, that it would cap at 8 million, despite what I may have perceived. I didn't have a real objection to that. I do think it makes more sense personally, if you're gonna rip that Band-Aid off, if you have more in that reserve, that to ease, and that was the purpose of that particular
Right.
reserve.
Right.
It makes more sense to do that, but it comes back to, we have, we certainly have a climate right now where money is, from Tallahassee's drifting back to more where it was when we started the referendum. Not as generous as they have been.
I think that the historical timeline is important because we were at 8% in 2018. Referendum passes, correct? So, with the idea of the reserves, we're collecting money in reserve, correct, from the referendum. But in 2024, we added another 2% to our 8%. So we went from 8% to 10%. So it's almost like it seems to me that we're still keeping up with a good reserve in case the district gets in financial trouble. I mean, we're, with the reserves and on top of our 10%, we're pretty comfortable.
How much is 10% of our general fund without me looking at the budget?
About 20 million.
And how long would that carry our payroll?
To carry just payroll, I'd have to break it down by that, but in reality, it's about 20 working days total of overall operating expenses, including, light bill, utility, everything like that.
Yeah, so it's about 20 working days of keeping us going.
18, because 10% of 180, they go 180 days.
But we work 250.
If you look at the wording, that I've just passed out to you, it kind of adds to what we have with the 10%, but speaking directly to the referendum.
But it has the same problem, Mr. Leclerc, is that immediately with this, it's saying that there's direct access now to 4.2 million of the 8, because we're only preserving 10% of the amount, which takes it down. So that's my concern, is there's an ability to immediately invade, and we're gonna be asked to immediately invade that entire 4.2 million. If we do that, and that flies in the face of what
I
we
have a
told
question,
them.
so both, you and Kim talked about when you were out there giving proposals to the community about what this is gonna look like, there was gonna be 2 million put away. You guys were under the assumption we're still putting 2 million away, right? Maybe some people were under the assumption we're only gonna do 2 million one time. I'm just saying, there could be a lot of assumptions, there's a lot of assumptions that could be made.
I remember talking about 2 million every year. I do remember that. I don't remember saying when the renewal was coming out, did we stop saying that we were gonna be taking out 2 million and setting it aside? I don't know if we did. I'd have to look at our old presentations, hang on, at our old presentations to see if we did, because if we did, then, but if we, I don't think we
Because I
were.
was very involved in that the second go around with the referendum, we basically took the same, I did a lot of those, if you recall, I did a lot of those presentations the first time around. And the second time around, it came back to me, Kim, where's that old presentation that we did? Which I gave to Teresa, and we made very few changes to it. The biggest thing that I remember when we went out and made those presentations, and I can clearly remember our superintendent at the time, Mr. Dionisio, clearly saying multiple times to the community, we are doing this so that if the referendum ever doesn't pass, it won't be like shutting the faucet off overnight, that we will have a gradual off ramp.
And when we passed the referendum the first time, we were collecting 13 to 15 million. 8 million, or 18 million, so 8 million would make a big impact. We're collecting $36 million now,
But it
8
would
million, but that's, you figure the majority of it's given to salary and benefits, no matter what, that's gone immediately. That 8 million might sustain arts for a little bit and pay to play for a little bit, but there's not funds to continue to pay staff with the increases we've given them from the referendum with $8 million.
But
I know, and I'm not saying, but I'm saying today,
And if we kept
and
doing
how
the
much
2
we're
million,
getting.
it'd still be a lot.
but we did it.
But we did. So
Right.
let me ask this question, why do you guys want to, the people, so John, you're putting this proposal
Yes.
forward, why do you want to reduce the
Well,
percentage of
You know,
reserves?
obviously, the budget is under a microscope, and I feel that, to be more efficient, to look more fiduciary and more efficient, we need to use the money that comes to us in an efficient way. And if we're sitting on top of a reserve that's way above and beyond what any other district is doing, does that look like we are using the taxpayer money efficiently? And I keep going back to the 8% to 10% after the referendum money reserve was established. We still are ahead, aren't we?
We're at
In
that-
general, yeah,
Right.
We're still ahead.
So what's our fund balance right now gonna be at the end of the school year?
10% plus the referendum.
Which would give us at what percentage
I-
total?
I would argue it makes us look fiscally responsible, is what I would argue.
But we're-
Unlike many of our neighbors right now that are on the news that haven't been. I don't think there's ever been a better time to stand there and, for lack of a better term, beat our chest, say, we protected y'all we protect us from ourselves by making sure that we can, for a period of time at least, maintain what we've given you. Other districts aren't able to do that. But again, John, I go back to it very quickly. If we open this door, they're gonna be screaming for that 4.2 million immediately. Then next year when they want a little more or this and that, it's gone. I can't add anything to it next year.
That's the biggest thing.
Right.
You talk about being fiduciary responsibility. What everybody needs to understand is if we dip into reserves for something that is a recurring expense, it's just like your mortgage payment, right? You lose your job, and so you use your emergency savings account to make your mortgage payment. But you can only do that for so long. Maybe you've got savings for 6 months to a year, but then the next year, you gotta figure out where's that money gonna come from the mortgage. So, you can dip into this for, I don't know how long, maybe a year, maybe for one budget cycle, but then what are you gonna do in year two?
We've already committed to that amount and it's hard if not impossible to go backwards. So,
I think the difference is, us three, have seen this movie before. Because when we came in 2016, and Bob was here the years before, they did take that reserve down.
To what?
it got down to almost 3% at one point. It never got to 3%, but it got to knocking on the door.
When Wendy and I came in, it was at 8, but that was also after not giving raises for 5 years, keeping staffing the same. So enrollment had dropped by 2,000 students. Staffing stayed the same. They didn't give raises, and eventually the rubber meets the road. And the rubber met the road when Wendy and I came onto this board.
That's when they were asking people to pay for $14 for their insurance, and everybody had cut, every department had cut 15%. Every department.
So everything's gone up. It goes up. So, we need to.
Except our budget. That's the one thing not going up, am I right, Marcus?
Yeah, I would agree to that if Tallahassee realized it was wrong.
But that doesn't mean we don't adjust to something that was established, how many years ago? When was that? So a couple years ago. So we adjusted the fund balance to 10% with the idea of, if we get in trouble, we've got this. But on top of that, we also kept the reserve and the referendum the same. And I understand that was the agreement, but we also have to we should also have to adjust for that too. Now we're sitting on 14,
To answer your question, it's about 14%.
14%. So with the proposal that's in front of you now, that brings us down to 12%.
Correct. As the state would see it, yes.
Explain that to me, how you're getting to 12%?
Because you're essentially taking 4.2 million out of the total what the state sees, leaving 3.8 in the assigned.
Okay, so when we report to the state, if we made this adjustment, we report to the state, we would show the fund balance, if we used the money at 12%. So we'd still be well above what the state requires and well above what our policy currently says.
Well, we want to be well above what the
And
state
we are, and I don't wanna, and I completely agree. But this just gives us the opportunity to work with
See if I
a
can
little
bring
more
this full circle.
of our money that's sitting there and put it to use in our district.
It sounds like we got 3 people here who are very cautious about wanting to move forward with this proposal. We have 2 people who want to move forward with it.
Well, so besides having to go back to Iowa, adjustment, which
Because
we could
my feeling is that
ask. I mean, that's an argument.
we're gonna have to be overly cautious that even if we do this, that we don't unilaterally the first year give away the farm, so that the next year, all of that extra that we had, that 4.2 million's gone immediately. That's my concern, is that it will evaporate the instant we open the door. And I'm not comfortable with letting it all out the gate in year 1. That's all.
So when we went from 8% to 10%, if we just went down, don't touch the referendum money, but let's just say, if we took the 10 down to 8, what does that release?
About two-ish million. As the current revenues show, yes.
Do you guys know why this was put up to 10%?
Ms. Green Grinder, who was the most fiscally responsible person we know, except for maybe Marcus.
There was a change.
It came directly at Mr. Griner's recommendation. His speech was, and I remember distinctly, that at that point, they kept the door open. He kept saying for 15 days. That keeps us open for 2 weeks, the 10%. Keeps us open for 2 weeks. is what it
Specifically,
is.
the conversation I had with him back then, we did have ESSER money. We had a lot of federal money that was in our budget. And his concern was that we were spending money like drunken sailors, I think was the exact expression that he used in a private conversation with me.
And it was necessary, because remember, that was after COVID, right?
Let me see if I can bring everybody to a place that we can
So,
agree on, because I might be able.
I bless Greg, he was a very important part of our district. Greg's not with us today. So our new our new CFO, has a different vision and has a different way of working things, so, I'm just pointing that out.
I might be able to come to your side, John, but with some conditions, John Karen. So here's what I want to lay out, a couple of things. First of all, I have question number one. In the current policy, and the policy that John gave us, it says the final adopted budget shall include unappropriated and then in parentheses, unassigned projected fund balance. Is that a mistake? Shouldn't it say unappropriated?
I believe that's a mistake.
Yeah, this is from McKinley.
Right.
That would
So
make
this
it-
should say unappropriated.
That makes
So
a
let's
In our
difference.
agree
current
with that.
policy too,
Yeah.
in current policy it says,
Current policy, it's negating itself by the word in the parentheses.
Right. So what we want
In
to
my
say, what it's supposed to say, it should just say, what's the difference between unassigned and unappropriated?
So appropriated is everything that is pre-budgeted for,
Assigned.
it's different than assigned.
Okay.
So it's all expenditures, like everything that, appropriations are all of the expenditures, so that'd be salaries, benefits, materials, supplies, everything, that's the appropriations. Then what's left over is your total fund balance. And then your fund balance, your assigned part of the fund balance could be like,
So
the
if you've ordered
referendum
but
or
haven't paid for, maybe.
I'm sorry?
Would your assigned fund balance be things you've ordered, say like instructional materials but haven't paid for?
Nope, that would be
No,
part of the
that's appropriate.
restriction
Okay.
of your fund balance, so it's
Okay.
money that's not spent yet, but it's already restricted for a specific purpose.
Designated.
Correct.
What's the statutory language?
The statutory language for the 3%,
yes.
for the 3% is the assigned and the unassigned.
Okay, so they use the word unassigned, that you have to have 3% of,
Your assigned plus your unassigned.
okay.
All your dollars.
Correct.
Um,
And then your restricted is your only other third part, which would be special purposes, pre-purchase, like purchase orders that haven't been paid yet, inventory, or like state appropriations that are for a designated purpose. We have the money, but it only can be spent for that, that's considered restricted.
So does it make sense from your perspective then to cross out the word appropriated and say shall include an unassigned projected fund balance of not less than 10%? Is that the correct?
Yeah, I
language?
just think that the unassigned right here is supposed to be there. I'm not sure why appropriated projected
Right.
fund balance, because appropriated doesn't deal with the fund balance, it deals with the budget.
So
so-
unassigned is the correct language.
Unassigned is the correct language to maintain what we've been doing.
And then who wrote this verbiage in green, John? Did you write that or did Marcus write that?
I had the assistant
Okay.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Where's our retained reserve?
I
Equal to
provided
not
it as
less
a
than
starting
10%.
point for discussion,
I guess I'm
if
kind
you
of
will.
confused about
So the 10% of what we collect every year,
Mhm.
so that's
Oh,
what
so you're
has
giving
to
like a
stay.
separate
No,
fund?
total.
So it's essentially
Right.
trying to specify in policy, if there's a referendum, this pot of referendum money is treated different. Which would be in addition to, because remember, that pot is still assigned, so we still have the 10% unassigned. But this pot would be in addition to that 10%, because it would still be assigned.
So you would have 10% of the referendum proceeds, if the referendum
is
proceeds are
3.8.
38 million.
Yep, it would be
so you'd have
3.8,
3.8
so
million.
which equals to about the 10% of the unassigned board policy plus 2-ish% for the referendum piece.
So I'm okay with that language in green, but here's the caution that I wanna give, cause I have the same concern that Bob does. I'm okay with adding this language to this policy, but somehow we have to vote on and agree that as far as taking that reserve down from 8 million to 3.8 million, that it'll be done at 1 million each year over the next 4 years.
Not to exceed 1
What,
million.
you're only gonna add another million? Is that what you're saying?
It would be 4.2 million. We'd be drawing down our reserve, our referendum reserve by 4.2 million, but I have the same concern that Bob does of doing that all in 1 year. I would agree to this, and I'm coming a long way. You guys know I'm coming a long way on this. I would agree to that if we somehow, I don't know how we're gonna vote on that or.
So there's two ways that we
Consensus here that we would
handle
only
that.
do 1 million each year over the next 4 years.
So you can put that into policy, or you give that as the directive, and when I present the budget, that's what we do, and if I don't do that, you don't approve the budget.
Again, I'm leaving in 2 years. I would prefer it to be in policy, therefore it's there written and it would require a policy change after that time.
And then after the 4 years, what happens with that policy? I don't know.
Well, again,
That
that
was just
policy,
my
then
question.
it's then down to
This is
the
kind of a
amount.
very unique situation for just over the next 4 years. I don't know that we need to enshrine it in policy.
That was the only reason I mentioned the, you give the directive of, we're not gonna exceed that. And when I present the final budget for approval in July, that's, well, we don't exceed whatever the board gives us permission to use.
I'm still uncomfortable, with all due respect, 2 years out, the faces are going to be substantially different at this table. And our commitment at this point could change dramatically if there's not something formal that requires that.
I'd like some attorney advice here. We need to do this as like a resolution or something here, up here at the dais where we all, because for me to go forward with this change that you're recommending, like you say, I need to have a vote that we are all agreeing that we're not going to go more than $1 million each year over the next 4 years into that.
And I'm not really willing to touch that referendum, not until we talk to the IROC committee.
Right, that was, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that would be another condition for me.
And then I would talk about some of this other stuff. The only thing that I'm willing to do right now is talk about taking the limit from 10 down to 8 for now.
Which would free up $2 million.
But we don't have to, we can do it with a supermajority anyway. So 4 of us just have to vote in favor, we can go below 10%. That's what our policy says. So we don't have to change it, we just need to have a supermajority vote to go below the 10%.
That puts a
But if we
one-year
go below
timer
the
on it.
10%, then it's an automatic, we're gonna use referendum money.
No,
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 not
because we
necessarily,
have
because remember, one is
14%.
the assigned, referendum money is assigned,
Yes.
10% is unassigned, it's two different.
Right, we can't even do it now unless we have at least 4 of us to do it.
Yeah, but we could do it, so we could go below 8% at any, or at
And
below
that would
10%
give you a
any year
one-year
we want
timer.
with the supermajority.
Once you open up Pandora's box, you don't reseal it.
Like I said,
Rather have it
I
in
don't look at it
policy.
as a
And then if we have to
Pandora's
change the
box.
policy back next
Oh,
year.
well.
It is in policy though, it's in policy, so I mean, we
We'll
can
get
leave
rid of-
referendum, we can leave
You
the
can
money
bring that to
sitting
a vote
there.
tonight.
Well, we can leave the referendum money sitting there if we want, and at any point, we can dip below 10% with a supermajority vote. So we
I
can
mean,
say this one
legally,
year,
the
we're
board
willing to
could
go to
do it
8%
if they wanted.
with the
But I'm-
supermajority.
But the
And leave the referendum 8 million sitting there, not touch it, don't do anything policy, and just change it, and leave.
that 10%, I don't include that in the state does, but
Right.
we
We
never
do.
have.
Right, I understand.
And listening to the conversation, I think if you bring that to a vote, I don't think you're gonna get full people.
No, I know, it's just an option, I
Doesn't sound
just wanted
like
to make
to
sure
me.
we all understood
So
that, we don't have to
let's,
change anything.
let's take Kim's example, 1 million each year, so that still keeps us up there about what,
13%.
It's about a 0.5% difference,
So still
with
close
$1
to
million.
14%, so we're sitting at 14%.
When does IROC meet again?
Not for a while.
May. But we can always, they're your committee, right? If you request that we
direction
establish
from
something, so.
What I'm gonna make a suggestion here, is that you call an emergency meeting of the IROC, and what you present to them is this paragraph that you've added to the policy,
With-
and let them know that if they agree to this, that the caveat is that we are gonna have something on the dais, and we'll have to talk to McKinley what that looks like, with some kind of resolution that we vote on that says that we are only gonna dip in $1 million each year over
Not to exceed.
4 years.
Do you, I'm sorry.
No.
Is that,
Do you need to have something, I mean, is this something that's going to impede you?
Well, Tallahassee is
not come back into session yet, so more than likely I have to cancel the week of the 13th. That's
For bargaining anyway.
for bargaining, and we don't have anything final from
I mean,
them.
I don't feel comfortable discussing numbers until we have a budget from the state anyway.
Correct.
This is a part of the puzzle,
Yeah.
of course, but.
I understand that this would help,
Yes.
because it's just so simple.
I mean, we're still stuck at almost 14%.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, that.
Can we get direction from IROC first? Can we, because if IROC says absolutely not, you can't do it, then
You got
that
three
means a
people
lot to
here
me
that
as
are
well.
not gonna feel comfortable going from 14% to 10%.
But,
No.
no,
To 12%.
12%.
So you're using the state number, not our Charlotte County number that we've always used. That's your
That is our-
conversation.
It is regardless of our
It's
money sitting
14%
It
to
is-
12% before we've talked about raises, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, just to clarify.
But that number shouldn't change because we still have to stay within those
I'm
bounds.
gonna struggle to get there, John, I will tell you.
Like
All
I
right,
said,
let's,
I would be
let-
happy coming down to the 8, from 10 to 8, and not touching the other. But what was your recommendation, Kim?
My recommendation is that Marcus comes to an emergency meeting of the IROC, and what he presents to them is that we know, maybe you gotta go back, I can look it up, the old presentations. I would think Laura probably has it from Steve Dionisio, where we went out and said that we were gonna be 2 million each year. We know that's what we told you.
Mhm.
Our budget is flat, and before we go forward with the next referendum, we wanna know, from you, the IROC, would you approve us lowering that referendum reserve, your language here, 10%, which would be 3.8 million, but doing it over a period of 4 years?
Okay.
It would actually be like 1,250,000.
22.
It's a changing target each year because the amount is completely dependent on the valuation of the tax.
And get their feedback on it, right?
Mhm.
Because if we don't have the trust and confidence of
I agree.
the IROC,
And then if hypothetically, if that happens, then we can go engage in conversation of whether we need to go below 10%.
and maybe we're gonna have to have a tentative workshop to sit here and talk about the feedback is. And the way I'm sitting right now, you know, just to be clear, is I'm gonna want something up on the dais that's a vote before I can even change this policy. On that not to exceed the million. I was gonna.
And we've got about
get to that
3
point.
weeks probably.
You still got
Well,
2
would-
others you
would,
want to on that place, but look
So
how
we've got
far
about
I've
3
come.
weeks
I'm
left.
getting really
Proud of
far.
you.
I mean, what if IROC comes up with a different, like a different?
They say use it
So
all.
we should,
I think we better, do we have a tentative workshop
Limit
on the
the-
schedule here? And we probably should plan on.
Well, that's why
it.
we're a Republican, not a democracy, John.
Can I ask clarification on this policy? You had mentioned, or there was discussion about a sentence in the middle of the minimum reserve.
Yeah, I think we need to change appropriated, get rid of that,
And
and
just-
leave what's in parentheses, but take the parentheses out.
Okay, so it'll read, the board directs that each year's final adopted budget shall include an unassigned projected fund balance of not less than 10%. Okay, I just wanna make sure we got that. All right.
Okay, now we only got 42
I have
minutes.
one more thing though, before we move on. When, so I was looking at these policies and I noticed that we have an old policy, 6210, that was done in 2005, called fiscal planning. That I guess I'd like Marcus to take a look at that and come back to us, but it appears to me that it's in conflict with what we're talking about right
I
now.
agree. It's a policy that either needs to reference the other policy language, or be matched. When I looked at other districts, they all have both policies, they're both Neola policies. In other districts, they either reference each other or they say the exact same thing, as far as percentages go.
Can you, for the next workshop, give us a recommendation then on what to do with the 6210, and then we'll have clear, obviously we'll have clear direction hopefully on the 6233, the next regularly scheduled,
Yep, you can do that.
and maybe we're gonna have a tentative to talk about what our rep said.
before Dr. McElroy goes on, Mr. Superintendent, anything to weigh in?
Are we done with policy?
No.
I feel like that was enough. That was enough.
That's the third of.
Thank you much.
Got the hard one out of the way,
So the next policy is 9700?
Well, I guess we have a request from Dr. D to move to his policies because he has to leave. Yep,
Oh, okay.
okay.
Bring the team.
Very demanding.
So that's 2266 is where we will start.
And that was under one of Marcus's as well?
No.
Oh, yes.
2266?
School board policy 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in educational programs and activities. The change will be, changing the term of fondling will now be referred to as criminal sexual conduct, and the definition will change as well. This is due to updated guidance by the U.S. Department of Education and executive order. So basically just a change in verbiage statutorily, yes, sir.
Questions on that one?
All right, 5200 attendance.
Pass that over to Mrs. Flores.
There's a lot of green on this one.
Lots of
You
green.
wanna read that? Oh, good, I'm glad you read that. Really, this is just bringing our recommendations from Neil, it's bringing it up to date. These are all things that we've been doing, and it's just aligning it with what's in our policy. So I don't know if you have any questions about anything specific along with the green.
Right. All right, so next one we have is 5330.01, self-administered medication and epinephrine use.
This one is just following, Senate, Bill 1514, adding some language about training and response to anaphylaxis. We already do all these things. There's also some state Board of Education rules, that one of them for pancreatic enzymes, they're just changing it from emergency care plan to emergency action plan. It's just kind of a wordy thing. If you'd like me to go into IHPs and EAPs, I'm more than glad to, but
We'd like you not to.
if you have any questions, you can ask me. And then that same language is
Yeah.
also in student-parent rights.
5780.
5780. And it's just mirroring it, it's just the exact same thing.
Great, thank you. All right, and then the next one is 5350.
Sure, so this one is just adding in our line that aligns with legislation to be sure that our law enforcement officers who might come onto campus or our school resource officers make the attempt to make contact with a licensed mental health professional in order to look at that criteria before we do involuntary examinations or a Baker Act. So that, and then just slight changes with professional development to professional learning.
And that's similar, right, on 8510?
Yes, ma'am. Say changing it from professional development to professional learning.
I think that's the only change in 8510.
It's 2 and 5.
Great. All right, I think the next one's 8405.
Mr. King?
Some slight language change. Page 5. The superintendent designates a primary threat management coordinator and also a secondary threat management coordinator to provide support.
Mike, can I pause you real quick?
Yep.
I'll throw that over to Mrs.
Yeah.
Flores. That's my bad.
Sure, so legislation changed that, we now have a secondary, threat management coordinator, and that needs to be named before the beginning of the school year, so that language is included in there, as well as further definition as to core 4 who are on our school threat management teams, and outlining what that definition is. Also some further definition, with recommending or not recommending, but making sure that our school threat management teams and that core 4 know what their responsibilities are in terms of their monthly meetings and following up with student support management plans.
We're already in compliance with all of this.
We've been doing this all year.
Great, now 8420.
Mr. King? Okay.
Yeah, some additional language on page 2, regarding our exclusive zones. We're fortunate enough to have exclusive zones. That's that second layer of protection from our campus, which not everybody does. If you're filing for an exemption for exclusive zones, to leave certain doors open and, areas like, welding classes, it provides an avenue so you can file an exemption for those classrooms. We don't have any examples right now, so we don't have any exemptions filed, but that just provides an avenue to do so.
And this is when the Office of Safe Schools comes by on quarterly checks, they check on this.
Correct, they're looking for these special spaces that kids need ventilation. So what it does is gives you an avenue to say, hey, I need to have this door open inside this area for health, for student health. So it provides that avenue to do so. But we don't have any issues with that, so we're all good. And
I believe 8470 registered sexual predators and sexual offenders.
Yes.
kind of a slew of change, it's not really changes, but additions. It just reinforces the fact that our law enforcement officers are the ones that do the public notifications. They advise the schools of new posters or new sex offenders in the area, which they've always done. And it outlines that we're not posting these photos or posters within our schools, in our main lobbies or anything of that nature.
We're directing parents that they ask to the FDLE website.
Correct. The only information that we've added to our main lobbies is, like Dr. D said, where to go to get the information. We're not actually putting posters there, and we also publicly advertise how to get sex offender information on all our websites. So
Is this statutory? Because I think last B at the bottom should include children, grandchildren awards.
That was my question too. I mean, is that statute that,
Says children.
would they have other restrictions that they would not be allowed to do that potentially?
The drop off.
Yeah.
So each sex offenders is
There are people.
lots of different statutes. Some sex offenders are allowed to come on
I got you.
campus as long as they
Yes.
contact the superintendent, contact the principal in advance. And then there could be a stipulation by a judge, same offense, that says, no, you're not allowed on campus. So it's very specific. So all our principals are told to do the same thing. If a sex offender comes on your campus without notifying you, and all of a sudden you have one in your lobby, contact your SRO. They can get the original charges, they can get the judge's orders and say, hey, did you follow the stipulations laid in place for you to step foot on the campus? But as we all know, some sex offenders are allowed to come on, but if they didn't notify the principal or the superintendent to say, hey, I'm coming on your campus, they may be in violation. So we've trained our principals to say,
We're pretty good at this, yeah.
don't freak out, get your SRO involved, and let's look at the stipulations laid by the judge, because it's the law and it's gray, unfortunately.
So your comment, Mr. Seeger, was, once again, sir?
Right, paragraph B at the bottom, it indicates children, grandchildren to be picked up at the facility. There are several guardianships with wards that aren't children and grandchildren, and I just wanna make sure that every person, the foster care is a good example, where it's a ward, and they might have the responsibility to pick a child up, what have you. I just wanna make sure that it says that across the board.
So picking up their own children, comma, grandchildren,
Or wards.
comma, or wards.
I have a couple things on here on this policy. On the middle of page 2, underneath where it says presence of individuals convicted, the second paragraph under that where it says is prohibited from knowingly be present, it doesn't flow. The verbiage, that whole paragraph, it's not flowing right. Does anybody?
Yeah.
Somebody's channeling Barbara.
You can have my job.
I think it's supposed to be after the Florida statute.
All one paragraph.
Yes, I think
Good
there, I
guess.
think there's just, yes, I think there was just an enter hit. Just as identified in Florida statute is prohibited from knowingly being present.
It's one long sentence.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Feels like something was
Right, so just change the B to B.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, is why would we remove the Charlotte Technical College portion down at the bottom? Because this, all of this other stuff is K-12, or pre-K-12, but then the bottom was adult learner sexual predator and offenses. It's addressing the students at CTC. And we have high school students there, and we also have adults there. So should we keep that in there? That's my question.
I think they do that through their, student handbook, so I have no problem.
Should be consistent.
Yeah.
Where do you see that this, the rest of the policy is only addressing K-12?
I
Do
think
you
it was
see that?
maybe it was superfluous to have the technical college, because
I don't, I
just
just, I'm
B
seeing
at the top, if you look at B at the top, it says all posters and other information provided will be distributed to all schools within the district.
right.
So
I think
we're
that's
already
why it's
notifying
in.
all schools.
I think they were just included in that, I mean, if you wanna follow
Okay,
that.
no, I thought this was just K-12. All right, never mind that, I apologize.
We practice the same thing with CTC that we do with, okay.
All right, that makes sense. Good.
All right, no, we have 8330, it's a shared policy under Marcus's, name, but there's a threat management piece in there that we just, we're gonna address.
So, 8330 just, it makes the legislatively, the threat management records changed from a category B to a category A. And so it just moves those threat management records over to category A, meaning that they're permanent, and we don't ever delete those. They're now uploaded into our state portal and they remain there permanently.
Anybody have questions on that one? Thank you.
Thank you. Can you leave that one?
All right.
Make sure I got it.
Since you're here, did
Yeah.
you want to go ahead and do yours, or do you want to come back?
I'm last. I'm good.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
staying up here. You're stuck with me for a little while. Claudette, do you wanna come get yours done? Thank you. Okay. I'm at the bottom of the pile. After he already rearranged me here. Ms. Smith only has one policy today anyway. It is 9700, relations with special interest groups. And, it's just setting some clear rules for how we affiliate with some outside groups.
One of the major changes that we made, minor changes, the way that organizations are submitting their flyers to us, we now use the electronic system, so that was included in the policy.
Anybody else uncomfortable with the same flyer like Charlotte High and Level Bay High, and one principal say yes and one say no?
Well, excuse me, say that again?
I say, is anybody concerned, says, must be carefully reviewed by site-based administration. Is anybody concerned with the same flyer like three high schools, and two say no and one say yes? I really think that it's, when it's site-based administration, it's giving the authority to the site, and you could run into a situation where, for instance, but Fellowship of Christian Athletes, not that it ever would, but is authorized to do it at two schools, but not the other one, by being site-based.
Yeah, so the flyers are not site-based, that would be from the district, but the top part, talking about functions, contests, exhibits, things like that, I can see where you're saying, if one says no, yeah, we don't have.
We have all kinds of things that are different from high school to high school. I had, you know, it's interesting, we had leadership class last week and somebody was asking me about National Honor Society. Each high school does it different.
So are we keeping the by site-based administration?
Well, I don't
or
wanna
do
pass
take
it off to have it here, but at the same time, I'm concerned that a conflict could arise and there could be issues, but I think we'll address it here if we have to, if it comes out.
I would
Have we
say as a-
ever had one?
Well, I would say as a principal in Deep Creek, I often didn't send things out that were maybe in Inglewood, like my family, they wouldn't have used it. So not for any of the reasons I think that we're worried about, but for proximity and knowing that they're not going to go, I might have said, no, I'm not.
And I do that now for the district. So if someone is submitting a flyer and it's in Englewood and it's maybe really expensive or, you know, something like that, I decline it for the Punta Gorda area because it's not relative to those families. And we don't want to burden them and overbear them with all these flyers, right? So it should be specific to them in their geographical location. I will say for different organizations that want to come in, I have had conversations with principals where it may not fit in to their day and they're going to do it a little bit differently than say Lemon Bay or Portrait High or Charlotte's doing it. So it is tweaked based on how they can fit it into their academic schedules. So I try not to get involved. I do make the contacts. For example, supervisor of elections, they needed to get into Lemon Bay to do their campaigning for registering to vote, right? So they may do it a little bit differently than the other high schools or vice versa.
I'm concerned with different times, I'm concerned with somebody saying yes and somebody saying no.
Yeah, hasn't happened to, I haven't heard of anything yet being a concern. Okay.
No, I think it should be a decision.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Allen, you gonna come back up? Bring it back over.
So we're gonna go, so you wanna go through his now?
Is that okay? The first one is a bylaw actually for the board about travel and expenses, 0147.1.
So this comes from a Neola update more than anything, just changing the language. It didn't really change anything from what we're currently doing. It was just kind of rewording and referencing other policies.
There's a whole group of them that all fall under this.
Pretty comfortable to put our travel budget against anybody else's.
I agree.
So also 2261, I mean, the primary change in all of this group is they went from professional development to professional learning, you know, as with the state. So that is 2261 as well, which is a shared policy with the Division of Learning. 2261.02. Wanted to give you guys some time.
So these are things we're already doing. I know it's more learning related, but it's touching finance as well. We're already doing this because we're required by federal law to do this. So it's just putting it into the policy now to align with the latest Neola updates. I believe this was a Charlotte County policy prior, so it's just aligning them so they match.
Do you have any questions on those?
All right, 754001, staff technology, and anti-fraud, 8700 are the same, or under the same, correct?
7540, I got 30 of them.
7540.01, staff technology and acceptable use.
04, 7540.04.
04, it is 04. What did I say, 02?
01.
04.
So again, some of this is just Neola updates. We've blended it with Charlotte policies. Most of this is referencing changes in statute that, again, we've already been compliant with. We're just playing catch up with some of these policies that didn't make it last year for it.
All right, and then 8700, this is a new policy to Charlotte, the anti-fraud.
Yes. So this is one that's other districts have as well, but I thought it prudent to bring it in. There's certain things in statute that we're required to do for fraud complaints, and obviously we do those, but we don't have a policy addressing on how we do that. So we brought this forward here to kind of define what fraud looks like to us in the district. Really is the definitions is kind of the meat of it.
I found it interesting that that one sentence where it says whistleblower protection provided by state law will not apply to individual who utilizes the state's chief inspector general's fraud hotline.
Yeah, why would that be?
because it's in Florida statute.
It's in Florida section, but if they
Yep.
report it to the superintendent,
They were violations.
then they can
Yeah.
claim
Yeah.
whistleblower.
Yeah.
Do we have
But
to
if
pick
they
options
report
here?
it to the,
So there are options, right? I picked option one, because we don't have an anonymous complaint procedure here. We don't have a mechanism to receive an anonymous complaint necessarily.
We have an anonymous for harassment.
We do for the harassment piece, but we don't have for what constitutes as fraud. Coupled with the fact that the state inspector general's office has one and they're required to have one. If you look at other districts, some of them have partnered with county government and they've pooled resources to have a third-party company administer something like that. We don't have that here, at least currently. If that's something we want to explore, we would probably either need to table this and come up with what that would look like. But that's really the only difference in the options, so. Because they can remain anonymous with the state, we just don't have a way to like filter out, because the law says they have to tell the superintendent, and it's hard to tell him without telling them who you are, so. Unless someone were to create an anonymous email address, I mean, but
so your suggestion was to go with option one?
yes.
We'll
What
move
about the
to,
empty box, so the empty box further? Is that,
The one below the options,
no, right above the first empty box is the first, right above that.
that's referring to having a website link for anonymous reporting, and I thought that would be weird to have if we didn't have an anonymous, yeah. And the same for the box at, below the options refers to the anonymous piece as well.
Okay.
Like this, they call the hotline.
Well, we want the fraud reported, but it's hard to do it anonymously, so.
right, 5830, student fundraising.
I think in here we talk about crowdfunding, is that in this one?
I think so.
I saw somewhere one of our
Yeah.
policies were not.
Yes, so
I don't even know what that is.
Well, that's like
that's like a
GoFundMe.
GoFundMe
But
and things
so,
like that.
and that was my question,
Yeah.
so like a lot of our athletics use, I don't know if it's crowdfunding or if it could be considered crowdfunding, where they just like send it out like, hey, support us, and you just send money in and it like goes to that student and it like pools and they all like the whole baseball team or the whole basketball team or
It's like
whatever.
these outside companies that do.
Yeah, is that
this
crowdfunding?
outreach.
So the definition of crowdfunding is really something that's not sanctioned. So it's something that the school or the principal's not aware of, that, just a group of people got together to try and fund something without permission of the school or school board or something like that. So we have board policy that says any sort of gift to the school that exceeds $5,000 has to be approved by the school board. So with crowdfunding, because there's no limitations on some of those, like on a GoFundMe, your goal might be $250, but you could raise $50,000 for something.
Yeah.
Technically, we can't accept that unless you gave approval to do it to begin with. So it puts us in kind of a weird spot of how do you want to define that. It also puts in a kind of an odd spot too when, we have request processes for like, hey, we want to do this to an athletic field or whatever. If someone just decides in the community that they want to fundraise for it, it can be perceived that the district doesn't care about that. When in reality, nobody discussed it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because what I get these solicitations from student athletes, that it's like an outside company, and the student will say, our soccer team is raising money, my goal is $1,000. But like you say, if they exceed,
Yeah, so that's a sanctioned fundraiser. So where the difference is one's a sanctioned fundraiser that the principal has the authority to, one can be perceived as a gift being donated to the district. So really my intention behind this was to avoid, someone raising $50,000 for us to buy something without the board being involved or knowing about it. And then we just kind of sort of have to accept that.
like a jumbotron.
Do we have a jumbotron?
I did.
Oh, okay.
There's a jumbotron gate in 2017.
Oh, yeah, so, it's an option, we obviously don't have to take, that was my reasoning why I picked said option as my recommendation,
Do we have another policy though with about fundraising, or is this it? 'Cause I can't find the one.
choose it.
We didn't bring, there's a specific crowdfunding policy,
okay.
but because I picked the we're not going to do it, I didn't bring that one,
Yes.
so.
Alright, and then the other one with raffles and all games of chance are prohibited, is that
That's
with like
required by
boosters?
statute.
Is that boosters and everything? Like they can't do 50/50s at a booster event?
Technically, no, and
Okay.
this has been prohibited by statute since 2000.
That was my question.
Booster clubs have been
A lot of
doing it
cracking down.
off-site.
So I will say,
But
off-site it is
off-site,
permitted as long as no students are involved.
Okay.
But
They have to be 18 or older, or 21
So
or
kids
older,
can't
depending on the
sell
county.
50 tickets.
Right.
Correct.
Or games.
And
of
it has,
chance.
and that has to be done off-site, and it can be done by booster organizations, or a 501, but it cannot be,
Student.
the school or the students cannot be involved.
That was my question.
Those raffles are both off-site.
Yep.
And totally controlled, and I've never seen a student at either one.
Gotcha. Alright, perfect. That was my question. Thank you.
I'm not sure why they even give you an option for that, because it's in statute that there's no option, so I'm
But
not
I
sure
know
why it
that's
was
two
an
of the
option.
bigger fundraisers for two of the high schools.
Yeah.
Would this impact, does this policy impact Sally Jones, their entrepreneurial fair?
I wouldn't think so.
No, because I made a note and I wrote that down because I thought that was something that.
That's certainly not the intention, unless they are going door to door soliciting, but I didn't think that was a good idea to endorse that, so.
Take a picture of that color, then can send it to Ian.
And then, in just a couple little Scrivener
Okay.
things. This, on page 1, the second paragraph, the third line down, purposes of this policy, student fundraising should be shall. So that's one.
And we didn't even type that, that was a.
I'm shocked that Neola.
Neola missed that one. Yep.
And then the third paragraph down in the green, the board will permit student fundraising in the school, blah, 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 event only when the profit therefrom. Is that
two
all one
words,
word? Therefrom?
No.
No, it's one word.
Is it one word?
Is it?
Is it really?
I did not know this. I learned something new today.
What's the Latin?
I have no freaking idea.
It's the root of the word. Okay,
Alright, thank
that's
you.
all I had on that.
Alright, 6325, which is procurement.
I just had some confidence.
So these are mostly typo, or well, capitalization things. The difference, if we look at the micro purchases, the federal law changed, from 10,000 to 15,000. And the reason why I decided to bring that forward is because the Florida Department of Agriculture for the food service program is requiring that boards, or they're not accepting micro purchases at the 10,000 threshold, they want you to go to the $15,000 threshold. They did make further changes and recommendations that you move the threshold from 50 to 350. But I did not bring that recommendation. I wanted to keep that at 50,000 without board action, so.
We live in a world where 15,000 is a micro purchase.
Well, you think about like our food service orders, how much are the food service, or POs that go out at a time?
Milk.
Yeah, it's more, they exceed the 15,000 every time we order it anyway, so,
The main reason this was brought forward
yeah,
was the
was
new recovered
yeah,
material
yeah.
stuff.
so.
Did we, I just have a curious question. The suspension and debarment, has that ever happened in our history?
Not that I'm aware of, I mean,
Maybe the department should.
We did have one vendor who.
I don't think security alarm vendor.
but I don't know if that, I don't know that.
Official action.
Yeah, I'm not sure, cause that's, you know, they can violate the contract and not necessarily be debarred, but, you know, it's only when they violate the law, so.
A contract violation is not a criminal violation.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any questions on that one?
In
Alright,
all cases, some cases it is.
Yeah, okay.
7230 then would be gifts to the school district.
Okay.
Keep them coming. Oh, that's good.
Just some updates.
So this again, it was a, Charlotte policy that, we're just aligning with Neola. I didn't find it prudent to take their full recommendation, which was include every possible item, because that would just be endless, so. But nothing else really, the meat of it didn't change, so.
All right. All right, the next one would be 7530.01, board-owned wireless communication devices. This was from some statutory updates that happened. We had just held it for a little while to bring it forward.
Essentially,
No TikTok allowed.
Yes.
that's
That's what.
really what the changes are, but we already do this, so.
Okay. 8330, we discussed this one with Susan, when she was up here, but there was something in addition to the, threat management, there was something in your area.
Yep. So it's just the maintenance of the records essentially.
Forever.
It just says we have to maintain them, which
Forever.
we are. So, there's not, there was a couple, things on the federal side too that for disclosing, for FERPA reasons, but again, we followed that, we're just bringing the language up.
And we already addressed 9142, the iRobot. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus.
All right, Mr. Harvey,
He won't leave all three of them.
2 policies.
Keep quick.
600.
These are gonna be easy ones for you guys.
You kept Tony all this time for this?
Adrian was supposed to call us up first. Okay, so there's 2 policies, there's a few updates, there's a lot of, just grammatical stuff or capital. Do you have any questions, or you want Tony to give you a quick rundown on them?
If you wanna go ahead and talk about them first, and then I can tell you what my.
Well, 8600 on, as the first page, a lot of capitalizations, just some changes there. But there was some big changes in the Florida Administrative Rule, Chapter 6A3, that came down from Tallahassee. And that's what this whole green section is on page 2. And this first part right here, basically, we do this currently in the Code of Student Conduct by notifying the parents, and that's how they get notified. But then it also clarifies some of the responsibilities of the transportation employees when we transport students.
A, B, and C, those are our protocols before this came in.
Do you have any questions on this policy?
All right, that is 8600.04.
We got, no,
The next one.
the next one is the qualifications. Again, this is also a result of Chapter 6A3 being changed. And the identification of the different style buses that they are coming out with now to transport students in. It's clarifying now that they want to have 5 years of driving experience. Used to be a minimum, so they've changed that. And then we've gone through and we've selected some of the items that are indicative of what we use in our safe driver plan, and this helps us with our safe driver plan as we go through this. The section that I was talking about on the MFSABs is on page 2.
Wendy has some questions.
So on page 1, under, it's been added, does not apply to contracted transportation providers. Who are you talking about?
That would be somebody if we ever got like an Ever-Driven or one of those contracted car services, or we were outsourced and used like a First Student or a Durham.
What about the transportation for athletic buses?
That's what I was just asking.
Charter buses.
I'd be concerned if they're.
Yeah, we have an approved list. I think they would probably fall in there.
Probably.
No, there's a separate contract.
They have a separate thing, I don't know.
There's a separate contract that we review every year with procurement, and then we go out to the federal government and then check their records, and then we provide that list of approved vendors for charters to Tallahassee, and then they maintain a list up there as well. So that's annually done through procurement process.
And then on page 2, passing a stop school bus was removed. Why did we remove that, especially when we're coming down?
If you go back to 8600 on page 3, because we're gonna have it on all of them, because of the policy that we're gonna be using here. It doesn't,
Yeah, I don't
it doesn't,
understand.
when you pass a stop school bus, it's a citation. And it doesn't get put onto your license unless you fail to pay that citation. And then it gets turned into a UTC, and then you're awarded points by the traffic judge.
So when you run somebody's MVR, it's not showing up then?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Only points or things that are issued through UTC.
Yeah, the license for traffic code. Legislation is what doesn't change language. You can say, but you go buy a school bus on them, there's nothing. Just amazing.
Or they're gonna get a big ticket. And then speeding in a school zone, same thing?
Yes, ma'am. Speeding in the school zone, same thing.
And then we went from, on P, we went from 7 points to 20.
Yes.
They're allowed to have up to 20 points. Okay. A lot of points. Yeah, and that's state, the state says that they can have up to 20 points.
Well,
Somebody who has 20 points.
It's like, how many points does
depends
it
on,
take to lose your
depends on
license?
There's a
periods
difference
of time.
between a Class E driver or a commercial driver. Commercial driver's license wouldn't be allowed.
Again, if you had 20 points within 3 years, you might have a license, even a regular license. This doesn't have a time designation, it says 20 points. So if you're driving 16 to 80, it may not be that many.
And then on page 3, the paragraph, it starts with the green where it said, it is the intent of the was crossed out and this was put in. Can we change that back to the?
Right.
You are correct. So change that back.
Got it. And that's all we accepted up to that paragraph.
Language on page 2, mentions the 15 passenger vehicles, because that's it's gonna be a new thing for us.
Okay.
The requirements for the driver, you don't need a CDL to drive.
But they do get the same, they are required to have the same training as a school bus operator. Because these smaller vehicles, the yellow ones, not the white ones, but the yellow ones are gonna have stop arms on them. And all of those switches that are required for that, making bus stops.
I have one more thing on page 3. Before the list, before A, that paragraph before A, where it says, or adjudication withheld of guilt for any of the following infractions shall be subject to disciplinary, but all the following was removed.
Because it's all in our safe, we have a list in our safe driver.
So then should we,
And it has to reference it, right?
Should be here too.
It is, it says in accordance with the district safe driving plan.
No.
I want it here
Yeah.
too.
Okay, all
Okay.
right, not a problem, put it back in.
so all of those go back in?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can we have speeding in the school zone?
And it has a railroad crossing fence, yes.
Yeah, so those
Mr. Seeger, we discussed that back and forth, we weren't, so.
Yeah.
That's what
We
he
did,
wants to
we
put
talked
back.
about it a lot.
So that will come out though from this part as well, the speeding in the school,
Yep.
all that stuff. All right.
That's in the school zone.
Yeah, that's the-
That one comes down.
Does anybody have anything else on this? Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, I did wanna make sure I mentioned, nope, you guys are good. 7540.02 is a shared policy between Marcus and Claudette, and we're holding that policy. So we weren't discussing it today, but in case you wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh no, we didn't talk about that. Yes. All right.
6233, but.
And I'm covering Mr. Bedford's policies for him as well, since he is tied up today. So that's why it kept me at the end. So
So which one are you gonna do first?
2111, parent involvement in the school program. This really is just replacing professional development with professional learning, and I think that's it.
Right.
All right, good. And then we'll go to 2215.
I have a question on that one. So I noticed in our policy, and this is in, well, we added language, and so it says, the district shall provide disability history and awareness instruction in all K-12 schools.
Yes.
So I was curious about that, and so I looked up the statute, the bill that was passed this year, and the statute reads, each district school board may. So have we decided that we shall, like, and are we going further than what statute requires?
So
And is that a conversation we wanna have?
what Neola says is that including specific requirements related to instruction that must be provided to students in the district if the district elects to provide disability history awareness.
Have we decided that we shall do that?
It says, it does say that is not mandatory, and the language in this policy is included as an option.
So I think I would prefer to change that word to may.
Okay.
To give our principals and teachers the discretion. We mandate, not saying that it's not a good thing, but we mandate so much instruction.
We do.
We've got enough mandated stuff.
But if I understand the statute, if we do it, we have to follow A, B, C, and D. Okay. So if we say may, then, all right, I'm good with that. Mr. Patrick, good, all right, thank you. 2450 is adult and community education, and some registration changes. These that we were already in compliance with. Any questions on that? All right. 3129.01 is tutoring. I don't think we talked about this one earlier. This is a little different. This is the New Worlds tutoring services.
I do have questions on this, and we've talked about this before. In this policy, we do not give our staff members the ability to tutor at all on our campus.
Correct.
And so I would like to see if there's a possibility we can give them the ability to, if they go through the same process that anybody else wants to use our facility. So if a teacher has a business tutoring, are they able to complete the same forms that any other nonprofit organization would like to use our facilities for their use? Yes, Mr. Harvey.
So, it would depend if it's, well, yes, they can fill out a facility use form, but
Yes.
it would also depend if they're nonprofit or for-profit.
Okay.
So if they're for-profit,
They have to
they
pay.
would be paying, but yes, if the principal approved that, they went through all the paperwork, they could do it.
Right, so that was
Can we
my,
bring that back for discussion, because I recall, I think in some other policies, we have language about teachers accepting payment and things like
that's it,
that. I
it's
think
in
we
here
need-
too, yeah.
But I think that we need a further conversation about it.
I would agree with that, because there is something in there, one of the policies about teachers not working. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and that's in here too, I mean, this one.
But I think we need to have a
Yeah.
further
I agree.
conversation about that.
Okay, I agree.
Hold it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if we need to hold this policy.
Well, it does clearly say in your staff members may not accept fees. This is the one that I use.
Yes.
When people ask me about it.
Your point though is if they, that's what that says, but your point is if they went through all the stuff, maybe, so,
There's a
yeah, I get to discuss it.
Yeah.
But we got some other language in another policy about teachers accepting fees.
do.
I will say on the New Worlds, I'm glad that they fixed that statutorily, because one of the issues, the New World Scholarship seemed like such an opportunity, and nobody was taking advantage of it in our district, because the people who would provide the New Worlds tutoring are teachers. And it was like, if you were a teacher and you wanted to provide tutoring through that scholarship program, it was like you had to create an LLC. Nuts. So I hope that this is gonna make it easier for our teachers, for people to provide tutoring and for parents to use that scholarship to do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold this one, bring it back
With
with
the
another, yes, other policies that might reflect that. All right, 5460 is a graduation requirements, and this is about the certificate of completions, if I remember right. Yeah. That they're being phased out.
You didn't do that one already?
No, we didn't do 5460.
I think it's all statutory. You pay, I think we have any say in it.
No, we didn't modify anything.
Right.
All right, this is a new policy, 9271, from the special update, and I know that we held on to it for a little while, and Bob and Nikki Cox have brought it forward now that they're ready to bring this in.
I just hope somebody's got a checkbook, because you can't pay any other way.
But that's our own internal, that we don't take online payments here, I guess.
Just in the 21st century, that's really limiting. I understand.
You wanna start a credit card payment
Yeah,
system,
no,
Marcus?
and we talked about this for a long
Yeah,
time.
so to give you some context, statute prohibits the school board from essentially having to pay those fees, so we have to make the parents pay the fees. So there's more to it than that, but we have mechanisms already in place for CTC, but the students are paying the fees for it.
Yeah. All right, and the last one for Mr. Bedford is 2421, but we are requesting to hold this at this time, even though we advertised that we're gonna hold it. All right, now for my policies,
Just a couple.
just a couple. All right, a lot of them were some of the similar updates. Well, these.
Chair's decision.
These aren't even from update from.
Trust me.
Marie, take a stand.
Well, you were still in the schools. You should have been here when we fixed it about 2012.
Oh, yes.
They'd have been let go for a long time.
I don't let them go. They know that if they put them on hold, I'm bringing them back up next month, right? All right, so drug-free workplace, we're bringing those forward with some changes. It's really just a time frame for the applicant pre-employment drug screening. So we did that for 11/24, 31/24, and 41/24. We just made them mirror that from 24 to 46 hours. All right. Then this is a new policy to Charlotte, 1139, and it's 3139 as well. These are educator misconduct. You remember when they added the educator bill of rights, and then they added the educator misconduct as well. I wonder if there's any questions about those policies. Okay. All right, we'll go to resignations, which is 1150, 3150, and 4150. Really, we brought these forward because with the incorporation of technology, and they weren't submitting necessarily to the superintendent in writing, so we were just updating these policies.
Anybody have questions on those?
Okay, great. All right, and then the next group is starts with 1211, and there's three. These, and you were kind of referencing this one, 3211 and 4211, the whistleblower protection. Yeah, these revisions clarify that only certain reports are protected under the Whistleblower Act. I will say there's an option on here that we discussed kind of in length that we weren't sure how the board wanted to do it. You know, there's an option for the administrative, so the Florida Division of Administrative Hearings that's statutorily required. That is an option that we can either choose or not choose on these policies to publish it.
But I would have the right to do it.
Correct.
I would not. I don't think it makes much difference. It's there and available, that's all that matters.
I think it's fine, I'm fine with leaving it
Leave it checked.
the way that you have.
Okay. All right. We weren't sure because that comes across as an option often, and we usually don't select it, but, you know, I just thought I would get the feel for what you all thought.
What's your, well, I was saying you must have wanted it in there, or you wouldn't have checked it.
Then I had second thoughts.
So
No
your
buyer's
recommendation is
remorse.
to not include that?
Correct. My recommendation, if I want to honor your wishes, but I don't know that,
I'm fine with taking it out. I mean, I can go either way, so let's take it out. What do you think, Mr. Attorney?
Again, I think it's available in terms of, just leave it out, and they'll find it on their own. So-
And then that's consistent with the way we've done our other policies. Okay.
Their
All right.
attorney will advise.
We're gonna uncheck those, Kristen. Thank you. All right, we'll go to evaluations. This is a big group here, and it really is about professional development and professional learning, starting with 1220. And then we did just, update and bring some current processes in there.
It's creates by changing vernacular and nothing else. It's just amazing.
Yes.
Imagine if you didn't have yawn, you had to stay on top of all this.
So that was 1220 and 3220, if there weren't any questions on that one, those two specifically. We have looked at these.
I don't have any questions on that.
Okay, good. And then professional learning is 3242, and we brought that one current with the new language. Really, that was all there was there. 3700, similar. Okay, and then employment of support staff too. I just wanted to make sure I looked at that. We brought this current with our current language.
Any other questions, anybody else?
Okay, good. All right, the next group is the sick leave policies, 143003. I'm gonna, there's actually three of them, 143003, 343003, and 443003. After a brief further discussion with finance, we're gonna hold these.
I have questions on that.
Yeah,
Because I remember when we made that change about the increments.
well, there was a statutory change that just happened in 2025 allowing us to do this now. It used to be prohibited. But we would like a little more time to figure out if the financial impact, if it's going to be what we think it is.
And the big thing was the big thing I had the question on was the increments in 1/2 or full days. Because we specifically added that in there
We talked
several
about
years
that
ago. I
too.
remember having a big conversation about it.
Yes.
So before we take that out, I guess,
Right, the one-
I'd like a good explanation about why we're taking it out.
We're gonna discuss it.
Okay.
It is our new system. It can allow it, but yes, we are going to hold those three.
Okay.
All right, the next one is 312004. Employment of substitute and short-term, part-time instructional staff. Really bringing this one more current with what we are doing now. I have one change though, Kristen. It's at the very bottom, it's number 3. It says all substitute teachers shall observe similar hours and perform the same duties. We don't need to pay them for the 15 minutes of non-report. So, caught that one at the end.
Questions?
All right, then conflict of interest, 3129.
I have nothing on that one.
Okay, this was the New World Tutoring, just making that clear. And then the last one is 8141, the mandatory reporting of misconduct. And it's again related to the offenses listed in the Florida statute 43504, which is like I have on the regular, we use that in my department, and that we're required to temporarily remove them from classrooms. You know that we usually go to a paid administrative leave and then move to an unpaid if needed. So, all right, that is it for me.
Thank you so
I
much.
didn't think you could do
Thank
it
you.
one.
So we're not gonna have any more policies for like
Well,
Until you're off.
We have the one thing else, we still have to, or 8 of them held.
yeah, we have
They're
several
gonna be
more.
signing a bunch more in July 1, right?
Yes, and then there's that.
Maybe if they ever open up this session. The good news is, I think this is the least amount of educational law they've done in a decade.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is FSBA advocate representative. FSBA, we have any district updates for that? Oh, sorry.
So,
District updates.
so currently, I believe Reynolds is the primary, and I'm the backup. Is there anyone that would like to choices?
Are you more than, do either of you want to defer? But if you don't want to defer, please continue.
The only thing I would urge, I mean,
Yes.
that I urged at the last one is, and somebody who previously served as chair of legislative, is stay on top of how they are making those appointments to the legislative committee, because really, quite honestly, advocacy is just a rubber stamp of what legislative is doing.
And I missed getting on legislative last year, so I will make sure that I get on legislative this year, because advocacy is not as engaged and involved as
And we have a
legislative.
new person,
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
And he's great.
Because that's where the work is, and it's, you know, it's our state association that we're paying to be a member of, that is putting forward our platform, what we believe, so
Yep.
we will have input.
Yep.
I believe Kara will be wonderful with that.
She will continue to be wonderful.
Yeah, happy to continue to represent.
All right. And in Baker policy,
I have nothing else to add to that, than what's in that.
tentative workshop.
I think for the first time in my 10 years, we're going to do a tentative workshop. Because we're gonna have to discuss what IROC comes back to say.
But
And
how,
we're not gonna wanna delay whatever Adrian's trying to get done. The problem is, I think our tentative workshop would have been scheduled for April 28th, is that correct?
I don't know, because I looked, but there's no tentative workshop dates.
It would have been featured or something, right? Here, let's see, is it in the feature? Here's the thing, I rarely miss, but the April 28th, I'm scheduled to go, as a guardian on the honor flight, so I've committed to that.
we don't have any.
Do we wanna wait and see what, oh, you found it.
Yeah, but there's no
When is
tentative
it?
dates, there's no tentative dates listed.
April's number.
No.
Us to do that, we
I
just
know.
actually put a date for tentative.
Yeah.
and we don't.
We need to go back to that.
Well, we had, so I don't know when the IROC committee's gonna be getting together, but when are you gonna be back?
Well, I could do it on Tuesday, the 21st at 9:30.
That would really be pushing IROC to get their stuff out. I mean, that's just
You
10
gotta give them
days
2
from now.
weeks, that gives them 2 weeks.
Today's the,
Marcus, how long do you think, or how long
So-
is it?
So that's 2 weeks from now.
I would imagine the board with one quorum, we have 13 members. Would you be opposed to having a virtual meeting? If this is a recommended.
For us or for IROC? Wait, for IROC.
I would recommend that.
Yes, if it's a relatively short 10-15 minute meeting, it might be easier for the members to join virtually, have that discussion.
You can have the
I
option.
hope it's longer than that, I hope they spend more than 15
Right.
minutes talking
Well,
about it.
Well, it's only one item, but my point is,
Yeah.
it's only one item to discuss.
So if they wanna come here, they can, but they also have the opportunity.
No, I wouldn't do that. Either do it all virtual or all in person. It's really hard when you have some in person and some virtual. Those meetings, and for me, when I sit in meetings like that, it's very difficult.
Try to do it here
participate
and there,
virtually. Yeah.
But again, the presentation is gonna be important at that, so they understand why the concern is. Or what the concern is.
I'm okay with it being a virtual meeting and have them get it done in the next 2 weeks. And can we meet on the 21st at 9:30 then to discuss their findings and whether we're gonna go forward with that policy change that John's recommending? And a potential, that would be good, because if we did it on the 21st, then we could advertise for our next board meeting, which is the 5th. A policy change, and if we're gonna come up with a resolution, for what I said, for what I would need to go further.
So I'm available on the 21st. I don't know if you'll be able to convene.
I'll be back, I get back on the 19th, so I'll be
Well,
back.
I think we'll shoot for next week, trying to bring the group together. We can give them a few options. We would need, it'd be great to have all 13, but we would need at least 7, I think, to have quorum.
I'll yell at Cataldo, we'll make sure you get one there.
So are we gonna schedule a tentative workshop for the 21st then to discuss the IROC?
in the morning, I can.
You can?
I can in the morning.
9:30. I'll move it, but this is important that we do this.
Yeah, because Adrian has to have marching orders, he has to know where she's at.
But then what do they do back together?
Well, right now, they're only scheduled to come together the week of the 20th.
We will not have a budget meeting.
The governor indicated that our legislators should be anticipating spending significant time in Tallahassee, but they have not come together on dates yet.
I have a question, on the 21st at 4 o'clock is a vote yes, meeting?
Since me,
You're on there, okay.
If it goes.
it should.
All right, I will turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry.